Struggling to grow on YouTube, posting consistently, adding some cool edits, but still stuck at 20 or 30 views per video? It's not because you lack talent or that your content isn't interesting. The truth is that you're probably just missing these 5 simple but very critical steps used by top content marketing agencies to turn low view videos into thousands of views. At PSS Creative Media, we implement these exact strategies for high profile clients. And in this video, I'm taking you behind the scenes with me as I train one of our editors in this millionaire level content editing and distribution system. Apply just 1 or 2 of these steps and you'll see instant traction. Apply all 5, you better be ready for some explosive growth. All right, let's dive into it. My favorite way to learn is to reverse engineer the work of people who are doing it right. And Dan Martell is a perfect example of a multimillionaire, billionaire strategy that has exploded on YouTube. And I think I already talked a lot about his channel. Here with me is Danielle Medina. How's it going, Danielle?
Going well. Glad to be here.
Danielle is a recent graduate of our Video+Podcast EdiLab program where we train world-class editors. And Danielle was our top shining star student. Really special attention to detail. And because of that, not only has she been already working with clients very shortly out of the program, but also now working and editing videos for us at PSS Creative Media for our channel too. So we're going to work together and reverse engineer this really cool YouTube channel, specifically this billionaire's high dynamic editing workflow, and break it down piece by piece so that you can see how accessible it is for you and how even if you're not a billionaire, you don't have a lot of authority yet, you can implement these same editing and content distribution strategies into your own content to make your podcast and your show really grow on YouTube really fast. So here's the channel in question, Dan Martell, who really recently passed 1 million subscribers. And because he implemented this billionaire's editing and content distribution workflow, he had explosive growth on YouTube. It's great because he had the resources, obviously, and then also I think the professional acumen to be able to not only hire a really cool content marketing team for this, but also take their advice. Because it's one thing to hire a really good team. It's quite another thing to kind of implement on what they ask you to do. You're looking at like sensational, easy to read thumbnails, obviously. And this thumbnail design is also becoming more and more part of something if as an editor you can offer, you can instantly make more money on every edit. If you actually look at each one of the videos, they follow pretty much the same formula. And so we're gonna look at this one and I thought maybe we could even just watch some of it. We don't need to watch much more than 2 minutes. This is 13 simple rules of business that will make you rich. One thing that's interesting to note here is all of that we just watched happened before 30 seconds. Yeah. And that's not a coincidental thing. 30 seconds is the first key metric that you see on YouTube. That's where most of the people are going to drop off. And on average, you lose about half people immediately. So you have to get all of these elements of a good hook out right from the beginning. You can see the techniques that are going on are classic sort of YouTube editing techniques. And the real power that's happening here too is that he invested heavily in an editor, right? He invested in an editor who actually likely works with him pretty closely too. With all that, then we'll break down kind of the elements of it. So anyway, it's like we're back in the EdiLab again. Yeah. So basically, if we break down first from a production standpoint, because I do think that's important to understand, is like, what is he doing and what does the CEO have to do in order to send it to the editor? You could do this with a single camera setup. The 2 camera setup's awesome. Like in this, right now I have this camera on a dolly that moves, and that's a pretty cool thing if you can set that up for a CEO. But the important thing to realize is that this is same across the board for anyone. Even if you're not a CEO, you can use these billionaire editing techniques to explode your own YouTube channel. It's a raw outline performance. But it's not as easy as just, showing up and improving about something. You got to have some strategy. And the first way, and you notice this in each one of his videos, but also this is just, you notice this in every kind of CEO style video, the hook tends to have certain elements to it. And so there's these certain aspects that are always present in the hook that you could just follow. And the first one is curiosity or problem. And that's actually what you would call the hook. Just the first sentence usually. It's either something that's going to spark curiosity or a direct problem that the person's having. And that can be said in like a sentence. And then after that, you have the authority and also proof of transformation. And in this case, it's usually like, this is how I've scaled clients from going to this place, or I've been in business for this many years. And again, with authority, you don't need to be a billionaire who has footage of you getting on private jets to be able to have authority in whatever it is you're making videos about. It could be small wins or whatever experience you do have about the thing. But this is important. This is really there for a reason psychologically, because one of the first questions we ask as we you're approaching content. First, why do I care? Which is the hook. Ooh, that is something that sparks curiosity. I do care about that. And then why is this person the person that should tell me about it? Why do I trust this pendejo? Then the last one is the promise. Where are we going in this video? These three things, these fundamental things, if any kind of content creator just incorporated these three things into their episodes, they would perform better right off the bat. And if you listen to most podcasts, like independent podcasts, or if you watch a lot of independent beginning YouTube channels, they're lacking these three things. They just get into something. They don't make you curious about it. They don't just angle it a little bit differently to like ask you a question or open your mind to it. Oh yeah, maybe I have wondered about that.
Hey, I'm interrupting this video to invite you to our newly designed free video podcast EdiLab. If you're ready to step into one of these high demand creative roles that exist right now online, think of this free mini course as a reality check. You edit your own 2-camera video podcast episode in a really cool app, Descript. By the end of the program, you'll know seriously whether or not video editing or podcast editing is something you could consider for a side hustle or full-time gig. It's a really fun, interactive, free online course, so go sign up now at pss.media/free EditLab.
So if you look at the simple editing methods that anyone can employ, one is pay for good B-roll. And what I mean by this is, first, we have to understand that our time is more valuable than any money will ever make. Our time is our number one resource. And so if it's you going somewhere, pushing yourself somewhere to get some cool B-roll of what the thing is, B-roll can do so much for you. And the B-roll that he uses, his channel is the perfect example of that, how he is paying big money for that B-roll. I also believe that him and other millionaire, multimillionaire CEOs and business owners, they actually will pay for exposure. They pay to be on somebody's stage. They don't pay because they like pay the podcast host to let them come be on their podcast. They pay because they took it out of their schedule where they would otherwise be, building a new revenue stream or negotiating a new $2 million contract. I mean, they're losing $2 million to go be on that person's podcast. But the reason they go and make these guest appearances is to get in front of people, but also for the B-roll. They bring somebody along with them and they make sure that they get B-roll of them speaking on stage. In fact, Veronica and I used to joke about this when we were first starting. We would get B-roll of us up on stage after the event had ended. And we're like, nobody would know the difference. In fact, I could Photoshop the audience in there if I wanted to. It really is the B-roll that you're paying for. You'll see that a lot of YouTube creators, because of this, and a lot of editors have to rely on B-roll that the client hasn't created. But if you can get the client to create a bunch of B-roll and have B-roll of them doing tons of things, then this is, again, something that an editor you work with on a regular basis starts to collect a library of B-roll, and they know how to access certain things whenever you bring it up. In the case of the video of his that we watched, he's like, some kid asked me this on this thing I run every week, and then we actually got some B-roll of him running the thing every week. So he has an integrated content team. He's got young talent following him around with cameras a lot. And so managing B-roll for your clients is a really cool thing. All of these psychological elements that the host is speaking, the editor can actually reinforce them. And one of the ways you can do that with good B-roll. So the other one is artificial camera movement. And this is just something that you could do with a single camera. You see this all the time. This can either be cutting in. This can be, I've showed you different techniques. You could do the horizontal flip. You can angle things. And then by using keyframe animations with your scale and the properties of your footage, you can move in and out of the footage. And then, of course, he uses it a lot, or his editors will use different camera movements or camera shakes. Dynamic text animations, I think that's obvious. We saw it happening. This is really common all over the place now, and it's been common forever. It's been common on social media. CapCut is really cool for this, and Descript is really cool for this, for just the automatic ones. You have a few different options. You can display text on the picture with your host, or you can also just interrupt your host with something and display text on that. A really cool way to use B-roll is to use B-roll, but then put your text animation on top of the B-roll, and then put like maybe even an audiogram on top of that B-roll as well. So when your host is talking about endless possibilities, you could put space in the background, and then the viewer is thinking of space. And so there's quick little hacks like that that would be a lot quicker than designing a more advanced animation. On his videos, you do actually see some pretty advanced animations, but a lot of those animations could be done in Canva pretty easily as well too. And there's so many different ways to do text animations. You can actually find a way to do these dynamic text animations using Descript or CapCut basically as a plugin with some very quick B-roll underneath it, so that you're not bogged down editing your own content for 8 hours, 10-hour, 12-hour editing sessions per video, because that's just not realistic for people who are DIYing it. And it's also not realistic in people's budget to afford an editor who can put that amount of hours into the stuff as well. And then the next thing is transitions and sound effects. This is a big one and really easy with Premiere Composer. So this is just use Premiere Composer a bunch. The Sound effects is a big one, which is another reason I really love Premiere Composer, is because many of the transitions, sound effect drags in with them. And that's just such a huge time saver because you have to sync the sound effect up usually. And then the other reason I love Premiere Composer is it allows you to have a bank of sound effects right there too. So at the same moment that you click to bring the transition in, you can click to bring the sound effect in. And it's really time saving in that regard. And you can favorite your own sound effects. And if you watch through Dan's videos, you'll notice that the editors are using a bank, a small library of maybe 30 sound effects that make an appearance in all of his videos. But they just get recycled. And so it is very much designing this machine, this system of content that these CEOs can show up 2 days a month and they talk about stuff they know. And out of that 2 days a month and a healthy library of B-roll, the editorial team is able to turn that into a whole month of content going out on 3 different platforms. And you can see the value in that. And then finally, the big one, progressive reveal. And this one, again, if we were to go back to his video, you'll see we've seen the progressive reveal start to play a couple times at us already. Notice that they are crossed out. And this is probably a Canva design. It's just a Canva design that you can animate in Canva. And then you take that video layer, bring it into Premiere, and then you can time stretch it, cut it up, zoom in and out of it, and continue to mess with just a Canva design. Something that I think is standout here is the dude is covering 13 points. And he does this in a lot of his videos, which a lot of people say is ambitious, but it's also kind of the genius of why his channel has been able to explode as fast as it has. And it's because the audience retention is off the hook. And the reason that it's off the hook has to do with progressive reveal. As you can see, you have just the things crossed off, and they reveal one at a time what they are. Multiple psychological factors are at play here. So the curiosity gap, and this is information gap by this dude, George Lowenstein is the one who coined it. And it's the information gap theory. And a lot of salespeople and marketing people are hung up on this one a lot. And it's when people perceive a gap between what they know and what they want to know, they feel a strong urge to close the gap. And the viewer absolutely has to know. You showed them, there's 13 of them. And they're just like, damn it. It teases the audience. It creates anticipation. The other one is this guy, the Zeigarnik, I think is how you would say it in an offensive way. People remember incomplete tasks or unfinished information better than completed ones. So when things are missing or hidden, the brain registers it again as an open loop. It's something that's unresolved. They have to stick around to see the resolution happen. So if you can hook them in long enough to see that promise, like I'm going to give you this promise and here it is, but we're going to reveal one at a time. Even if you wind up skipping through the video to see each one, you're probably going to skip through the video. Number 3 is the commitment and consistency. And this is the Asiladinis. This isn't working. They invest even a small amount of time into watching the first reveal. They're psychologically more likely to stay for the rest due to a commitment bias. They don't want to feel like they started something without finishing it. And what's interesting here, I think this is at play with podcasts. I think that you see a lot of people, they jump in their car and they listen. They have to finish the episode. Kind of the same with like a television show. You just have to get people hooked with that first 3 minutes and then they'll stay around for the end. And then pattern recognition, the brain craves predictability and closure. So each gap is an extra little dopamine hit when you reveal it. And then also the FOMO thing, which is everywhere in marketing, which is, well, I need to make sure that I know all 13 steps that this billionaire is about to share with me. And so if you hit on all 3 of those things at the beginning and you're like, okay, here is this big hook. Here's this big thing that you need to be interested in. Here's some curiosity. Did you know this interesting fact about this thing? And this is how, because I know this interesting fact about this thing, I was able to get some serious results. And I want to promise you the same results. So keep watching. I mean, it's like so common that you just recognize it everywhere. And it isn't broke and it still works. And I think what's cool about Dan Martell and his channel is he proves that it works still. Yeah, that's it.
So what did you think? Did we spark your interest in becoming a video and podcast editor professionally? Is this an idea you've already had? We have these 2 videos right here that are really cool where we get into this topic even more with some great takeaways and tips for you. Check them out.